You're listening to the Limitless Leadership Podcast, the podcast designed to help automotive repair shops learn how to lead, coach, train, and manage their team better by sharing proven techniques and thought-provoking interviews from industry leaders. Are you ready to transform your leadership skills by tapping into unrecognized potential to achieve limitless results? Let's get ready for liftoff. It's time to go from great to greater. Here's today's episode.
All right, leaders, whether you're running a shop, leading a team, or leveling up in your career, you know details matter. And if you're like me, that includes keeping your beard on point. That's why I trust the Bearded Brotherhood. Their beard oils, beard balms, and mustache waxes, among other, are made with all natural ingredients, no junk, no shortcuts, just top-tier quality that keeps my beard looking sharp and feeling great. And let's talk scents. Whether it's their best-selling Woodsman or my personal favorite, Lone Stranger, the Bearded Brotherhood keeps me smelling fresh and my beard stays soft all day. If you take your beard game seriously, this is the stuff that you need. And because you're part of the Limitless Leadership podcast family, I've got a deal for you. Just visit thebeardedbrotherhood.co/lead15 to grab your favorite products and get 15% off in the process, because a great leader deserves a great beard. Now, back to today's episode. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Limitless Leadership Podcast. I'm your host, Josh Parnell, and today we're joined by a fantastic guest, another fantastic guest, a friend of mine. Our guest today is a shop owner. He is also heading up a pretty cool conference coming up in May called the Tools Conference. We're going to hear all about that conference, but our guest today is my friend, Mr. Bret Fadely. Bret, thanks for being here.
Hey, thanks for having me, Josh. Great intro, buddy. I appreciate it. Man, it made me blush a little bit.
Well, hey, you know, you're also a fellow craft beer connoisseur, and so we might talk a little bit about beer on a leadership podcast today as well. But Bret, if you would, man, go ahead and introduce yourself to the audience. Tell us all about Bret Fadely, who you are, what you do, and how you do it.
Yeah, so I'm Bret Fadely, second generation shop owner. My parents started the business back in 1977 called Fadely's Garage. It is now Fadely's Automasters here in fabulous York, Pennsylvania. And as we're speaking, they're calling for more winter weather. We're actually having a winter up here, but yeah, this was a dream of my parents, and I've been involved in the business since 1986, 87, so almost 40 years. Parents have both since passed on, and the business is now being run by me, and we're trying to grow and become a very sustainable business for the future. So a lot of things partaking that. I was never a business owner, never thought about being a business owner, but here I am, and I needed help from the outside, but I learn as I go, and it's been a great experience. And I tell people all the time, this wasn't my dream, but it is now my dream, and I am doing the best with what I can. But I love it. It's the people we get to meet in this industry are fantastic. The networking opportunities that are out there by attending training or getting on podcasts and watching this stuff is the biggest thing you can do in this industry. But I was never a technician. I was going to be, but I went in the Army instead for 8 years. But I am now running a business and learning as I go, like I said, but it's a great opportunity. And I tell, when I interview somebody, this is a very profitable and sustainable industry if you want to put the work in. And that's what you have to do, is even as a business owner, you have to put a lot of work into it.
Yeah.
And it continues to grow. And I'm just happy where I'm at.
Awesome. Well, yeah, I'm excited to chat with you today. First, I want to thank you for your service too. I didn't realize you were an Army vet. So thank you for your service. And I like hearing story like yours, Bret, where you kind of got thrust into this career by happenstance. And you said it wasn't my dream, but it's my dream now. These were essentially the cards that you were dealt, but you are making the most of those cards. And I love that you said that you also look outside of the business for help. I'm a big believer in the fact that multiple minds are better than one. And many of us in business ownership, entrepreneurship, any kind of formal leadership role, we're always learning as we go and learning as we grow. And being committed to being a lifelong learner is important to be able to continue evolving and growing so that you can be profitable like you talked about. What are some of the biggest challenges that you faced as a young shop owner when you first started out that you wish you knew then that you know now?
Well, I'll share a little story. Basically, my mom was the financial person in control of everything. And when she passed away 10 years ago from cancer, and nobody knew what was going on with the books. So I finally got the books that year, the beginning of that 2015, the business was pretty much bankrupt. There was nothing in the bank. So it was a very struggling year, and not understanding anything, I made it work, and it was frustrating. Trying to live week to week, basically, okay, I got to do payroll. I got to do this bill. It was a struggle. By the end of that year, I will say positively, we owed nobody anything, and I had a very small amount in the bank. So that was a huge positive. Tried to maintain that going forward, but I realized something's not right. It's not working. I needed to reach outside of the box of our little shop and ask for help. Now, against my brother and dad's wishes, I did it. I pulled the trigger and hired my first coach after going to training events and getting to know some of the, and my first coach was Rick White with 180 Biz. Mm-hmm. I took one of his classes at Tools, which is the event now that I kind of head up and run with the help of others. And it was about the KPIs. I didn't know what the heck a KPI was. I took that class, came back, realized I had no clue. And I said, we need somebody from the outside looking in from that 10,000 foot view to help us gear the business. And with that help, it really started to pay its dividends. So yes, reaching outside the box, because you don't know everything. You need help sometimes, and mentors, your peers that have been there, done that, they figured a way out. You need that help. And it definitely helped me.
I think for a lot of folks, it's also just about perspective too. I mean, there's, as a coach myself, I know that I'm not always sharing some groundbreaking, earth-shattering information that's new to my client, but I do know that being able to be a listening ear, provide perspective, depending on what we're talking about, just helping people problem solve, critically think outside the box can go a long way, because with perspective, the way that we view things drives the way that we do things. And a lot of us just need a simple shift or nudge to view things differently and subsequently do things differently. I'll ask you, Bret, what was it about your brother and father who were like, why do you think they were initially against you hiring a coach?
Well, they look at it as that's an expense we don't need. We were struggling in the beginning, and I said, well, it's not an expense. It's an investment. It's basically what it is. It is an investment to help propel the business. And I said, what we've been doing is not working. We're not profitable, and I'd show them like some of the numbers from that class, the KPIs. Look, we are way off base on this key profit indicator. We're nowhere near where we should be getting. And at that time, the shop labor rates were fairly low. They weren't as high as they are now. And we're still not getting paid for what this industry is worth. But yeah, they were really against it. And then I started to show them, look, and then they started to see the numbers, and they let me do my thing because I took control of the books and I would run stuff by them. And I'm not an accountant. I never went to business school. This is a learn by fire, hard knocks, and I continue to grow every day. I just got back. I was down at the summit by the Institute in Amelia Island. Fantastic seminar, summit, the keynote speakers, the camaraderie that you felt, even though I'm not a client of theirs, I felt like I was at home in a family. And I think I get that no matter where we go now. I take my staff, I shut the shop down. I take my staff down to North Carolina at ASTA. I take them to Tools and I shut the shop down. And if you don't continue to make the effort to help yourself and your staff grow, you're going to be stagnant.
Yeah.
And we know where stagnant can get you.
Man, you were really talking about creating and cultivating a culture that really every shop needs and quite frankly deserves. The fact that you not only take yourself to these conventions, these events, these conferences, but bringing your entire team too. I always say, like, when the leader gets better, everyone gets better. And I'm going to ask you, Bret, to speak about the benefits of attending training, attending conventions or conferences, getting this continued education, if you will. Like, we know that it's an investment. We know that it can help, but we will find reasons to not go. It's going to be too much time or too much money, or I need to stay open. We're thinking about the here and the now. Speak about the benefits of attending these events and why you take your entire team with you, along with you.
Well, I'll go back to when my parents were in the business. We would attend certain training things for, my mom and dad would go, or I would go. And the techs went to tech training during the week, either after work or Saturday. They don't want to do that. And it took me a while to get to the point where I could physically afford to do this. And once I had the financial backing to be able to, close the shop down, pay their expenses and do this. The first one we did was 2-3 years ago. We went down to ASTA, took the whole staff. I closed the shop down. First time Fadely's Automasters has ever done that with the entire team. Best thing we ever did. Not only did it help improve the culture, it helped improve the camaraderie that you feel amongst your staff. Everybody felt good. We had a great time. And, my networking is always, I'm a people person. I will talk to anybody. My wife calls me a social butterfly. But it helped them because it got them out of an environment from the shop perspective and introduced them to a whole new network of people.
Yeah.
And so now their networking is expanding. So yes, I'm trying to create a culture, and I'm still creating that culture. I don't always find myself the best leader. I find myself veering off and then losing focus, and then I got to bring it back. And there's a lot of work to be done. It's a never ending story, but just doing that and making the investment is going to start that creating the culture where people are going to want to come to you because they're not getting it over there. And it's not a financial thing. It's more of, hey, I want to come there and work because look at what you're doing to your people.
Yeah. There's a level of it's like an energy that you feel when you go to these events, and you're surrounded by a lot of like-minded people who are there for the same reason that you're there. You want to get better. You want to grow. You want to develop. And when you can bring your entire team there, you're not the only one getting fired up, getting motivated, getting inspired, and then going back to your shop and being, I'm ready to set the world on fire. And your team's like, what? We've been here the entire week doing the same thing we've been doing, and you're the only one who's fired up and motivated. And I often say that motivation is very much like a flame, and flames are going to come and go. So where's your flame going to be 3 months from now, 6 months from now, a year from now? If all of you guys are on fire and motivated, that flame is not going to burn out pretty quickly.
Yep. I learned that the hard way. I think the first big training thing I ever went to, I came back and I was all pumped up, took all these ideas and started to try and implement everything at one time.
Yeah.
That flame got extinguished pretty quick.
Yeah.
And I told him, look, you're going to get new ideas. You're going to come back. You're going to be excited. We're going to do a little review training. I'm going to have a meeting and we're going to talk about, okay, what'd you learn? What was your one takeaway? What's your one takeaway? And then just implement small things at a time.
Love that. Yeah. Love that. I think being able to implement one, small things at a time, being consistent with it over time, it's definitely more sustainable. And we see this every year at the beginning of the year when people try to set New Year's resolutions and just try to make these massive 180-degree life sweeping changes overnight. It's not sustainable. And so being able to, basically fan the flame to some degree and say, all right, we got a lot of information, got a lot of notes, a lot of ideas. Let's come back and individually decide who's championing what. What are you going to be working on the next few weeks? Pick one or two things, and it doesn't have to be everything all at once.
And you bring that up about New Year's resolutions. So in our podcast about beer, I make a resolution not to make a resolution. I can't break it.
Okay, I like it. Hey, that's reverse psychology right there. So I'll ask you, Bret, this is a leadership podcast. If I just straight up asked you, what does leadership mean to you? How would you answer that question?
Well, I'll kind of go back to my military days. Leadership to me, and I have a lot to learn, and it's a continuing, you know, forming of the mold, so to speak, because you're always changing and you got to manipulate. Everything changes and it's day by day. But to me, a leader is somebody that understands the role, can find the best way to encourage the people to follow you and make sure that they're safe and going in the right direction as well. In the military, I find myself more as a leader, and that's where I am. Like, I'm not a follower. I'm more of, all right, you give me a task, I'm going to step to the front and I'm going to take control. And here's what we're going to do. Follow me. The biggest pun is here. Hold my beer. Watch me.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's what a leader is. And even in the shop, that role changes because you have so many different personalities. Different things creep up. And how do you handle that? And by me constantly going to these training events and listening to different speakers or different classes, like, oh yeah, I should be doing better at that. And I got a lot to do. There's things that I lack on, and there's things that I do well. My biggest thing is time management. That is my biggest nemesis with my, I tell my coach, look, my thing is time management. And you had mentioned it. I get laxed on my one-on-one meetings. I get laxed on the team meetings. The next thing you know, it's like, oh crap, it's Thursday. And I didn't get it done this week. So those are things I need to improve on. But a leader is somebody who can inspire others to follow the same and get them to get the passion that you have about it and bring that passion to the forefront. So you're all pushing for the same goal.
I love hearing some of those keywords: passion, inspire, influence. To me, one question I ask every one of my clients is, ask yourself this question: as a shop owner, does my team feel the weight of my title or the energy of my leadership or the influence of my leadership? That it can be interchangeable there, but being able to really instill and inspire this level of passion where they see how passionate you are, they see the energy that you bring, and it starts becoming infectious. I often say, like, we're contagious and we can either infect or we can affect. So it becomes infectious in a positive way. And that is where, when I'll say it again, when the leader gets better, everyone gets better. It is incredible how much of a well-oiled machine, like when the shop is humming, everyone is on the same page, firing on all cylinders. It is a special thing to see. And it often comes from the leadership. So I want to, give you some kudos there to keep on doing it and keep on growing through it. And also this, Bret, I'll say this too, because there's been a couple of times you said, hey, I'm still growing through this. I'm still learning. Like, that level of humility also, to me, like, I'd want to work for you because you're letting me, like, you're telling me, hey, I'm real. I don't know everything. I'm learning on the fly sometimes, and that's okay. I mean, that's a sign of a great leader where you know what your opportunity areas are. And so you're finding people and hiring people who may be strong in those areas that you're weak, and vice versa too.
It's just like a marriage. You usually find somebody that's opposite of you to pick up your weaknesses and vice versa. So with my staff, I tell them, look, when I sit them down, I tell them their roles, and this is my expectations, and here's the way we do it. However, if you have a better way of doing it, my door is open. Come and talk. Let's talk about it. I don't know everything. I don't know the best path all the time because I'm not a mechanic. So, or as Carm just mentioned, he's trying to change that terminology from technician to specialist, which we need to, even though the industry developed the word technician to get out of that mechanic grease monkey thing. And I tell them, this is an open door. If you got an idea, let's talk about it. Like when I switched management systems 3 years ago, I had my entire staff, we sat through 4 demos. They chose what we wanted to go with, because if I dictated it, it would have made a big difference. So you get their input, you get their buy-in, and they're more likely to be passionate and go with it. So like when I bring interviewee, potential new staff person, I'll have an interview with them and ask them questions, and I bring the staff up one at a time, let them talk to them with me out of that room. Because that's where the culture is going to be set, because they're telling them, hey, this is a great place to work. He's great. He's lean. This is the way he runs things. It's not coming from me.
Yeah. Love that. You guys use TechMetric, correct? Let's talk about the Tools Conference. So that's coming up at the end of May. For our audience listening, I'd say 85-90% of the audience are in the automotive repair space. Share with the audience what the Tools Conference is and what they can expect if they were to attend this year.
So it's tools. It's not about tools, like hand tools. It's called Technician and Owners on Learning Strategies. It's been around for a while. 3 years ago, a couple of us, our executive director at that time had resigned. We had to have it. We were contracted, and none of us ever ran an event before. We pulled it off in October of 23. A turnaround. We did it again last May. So this year it's growing. I'm hoping that Tools will become the ASTA of the Northeast or the Vision of the East. Mm-hmm. And it's going to be May 29th to June 1st at the Wyndham Lancaster Resort right here in Lancaster, PA. And we're going to be looking to do premier training from some of the best in the industry, both technical. We're going to have some Euro. We got some collision stuff going on as well. We have a bunch of collision classes, management, service advisor, ownership, marketing. I have 50 classes to choose from. We're going to have a big trade show space to have a trade show at, and we're got some things in the background. We may be able to have that trade show now on Friday afternoon as well as Saturday afternoon. We're still solidifying that, but right now the trade show is going to be Saturday. You're going to come and you're going to learn. You're going to take away that one or two key things that you're going to learn. The biggest thing, you're going to get to network with your industry peers, some of the best in the industry, not only their peers, but you're going to get to meet, I'll get to meet you in person. We'll have a beer.
Yes.
And that's the biggest thing I tell people. And unfortunately, in this industry, these training events are all over, and only 3% of our industry attends them. And that's the top 3%. It's just, it's a shame.
So say that again, Bret. Sorry, say that again. Only 3% attend, but it happens to be the top 3%?
Top 3% attend these events.
How much more proof do you need?
I don't know. And that's the biggest thing right now is our industry is how do you get that passion and inspire the industry to get on board to make this and make the change of what our industry is. We're the hardest industry to make a living at. Constantly dealing with the technological changes in the automobile. But the general community still thinks of us as general grease monkeys. Why does it cost so much? They don't. I'll ask my customers, what ADAS is? And they're like, no. I'm like, what? Your lane departure, your backup cameras, all that. Oh, I said, yeah, they're advanced safety features, and that stuff needs recalibrated at times when you do certain repairs. So we got two challenges is getting the industry to change and move it forward to where we should be, and educating the consumer on what they're driving and what to expect when they come to a professional repair facility. It's a challenge.
What else can we do in the industry outside of attending trainings and attending the conventions, the conferences that you're talking about? What else can we do to change the narrative or change the perceived narrative that we're all just a bunch of grease monkeys? And what can we do to change the perception of outside?
I think it starts with educating the consumer, changing the appearance. And for the most part, shops have done that. Repair shops have done that. You're no longer walking into, a dirty floor and that Snap-on posters and pictures hanging around that they used to hand out. That for the most part, that has changed. There's still some out there, but I think it becomes, we need to educate the consumer and prove to them that this is a profession. We are not just wearing greasy uniforms and stuff. Treat the customer and give them the experience that they should.
Love
And
that.
how do you learn that? By attending training events and taking away ideas, talking to your peers. Build, if you don't have if you don't belong to like a Napa Auto Care group or something like that, like a BDG group, call your other fellow people and, shop owners in the area, and let's start building a community.
Yeah. Love that. Being able to create the community. And I love how you're so, um, uh, emphatic about networking. These events are fantastic networking events. And there's 50 training classes to attend, and there's trade show, and there's, great camaraderie in general. Like, this is something that, to me, if I'm listening, I'm thinking, even if I'm thinking I can't afford to go, I would venture to say you can't not afford to go. Like, we can't not afford to go to these things.
And by the way, Saturday at the awards dinner, we have a fabulous keynote speaker, Mr. Josh, going to be our keynote speaker on Saturday night.
Yeah, I'm excited for the opportunity. Thank you again for that, and looking forward to hopefully delivering an impactful keynote for everyone. Well, very good. So, Bret, another question I have for you, and I ask every guest on this show this question. We talked about the importance of finding that coach, of always committing to being a lifelong learner. I'll ask you, what's the best advice that you've ever received from a coach or a mentor?
Best advice I have ever received: do your work. Basically, sit down, take a look at what you got going on, and implement some of the strategies that you have learned. So that is some of the best advice I had received, because we weren't doing it. On a personal level is, and I'll be honest, I just learned this past week when I was down at Amelia Island with the summit, and I took it to heart because I mentioned earlier this wasn't my dream, but it is now. And I have to change that, because I'd had customers ask me in the past about, hey, you're living the dream. I'm like, yeah, but it's not mine. So I just learned that on a personal level. Like, you know what? It is my dream. I've made it my dream, and I want to continue that dream. So I need to change that. So that was a personal thing that I took away. That was some of the best advice I heard at one of the keynotes that was down there.
How are you doing that, Bret? So because what you're talking about is mindset. You're really forcing yourself to change your mindset and view things differently. If it wasn't your dream, but you realize, you look up and realize, hey, you know what? I've been living this dream regardless of whose it was. I've been living this dream for a while now. It is my dream. What are you specifically doing to change that narrative in your own head?
So I had to change the narrative. And then what that's going to do is hopefully it instills me to become more focused, get more passionate about that, and let that passion bleed over to my team members.
Yeah.
I try and build their passion as well as I have built mine.
Yeah.
None of my 3 kids have won any interest in the business. My brother's son. So this will end with a second generation ownership, unfortunately, but some of the stats I heard last week is by the 3rd generation ownership, only 3% really survive that, because the businesses fail. But I do have a staff member that's been with me 13 and a half years. He is the next potential successor. And we brought him up in December off the floor and started teaching him a service advisor role. It was my introduction to this side of the business. And I just conversed with him yesterday before we left for the weekend, and we had a nice conversation. And he said, this is a different view from being as a mechanic on the floor, technician or specialist. It was a different view for him. So he's starting to see some of the back end, and I want to see if he has it in him so I can continue to invest in him and grow him into my role.
There's a bit of a buzzword kind of floating around right now. It's 2 words: development pathway, and being able to provide development pathways for our team. You've already identified potentially the next successor at your shop. When I share with you the words development pathway for this individual, what things come to mind?
So I'm going to show him, and actually I've already started my 10-year succession plan.
Okay.
We're going to put a date on the table, and that's the date Bret is out. Some of my current coaches were like, well, why is that? Just be an absentee owner? I said, absolutely not. Because if my name is attached to that building and I am still participated as an owner of that building, I'm going to want to be there. That's who I am.
Yeah.
My best way is to cut that tie and walk away. So I'm going to show him the path, and actually we're going to get him into we're going to start with some service advisor coaching. And then I want to step him up to some management coaching, and then ultimately get him to business coaching. I hired 2 technicians this past summer. One was an apprentice, which is what I really want to develop the next the next specialist in the shop. And the other one was a specialist or a mechanic, but didn't really have any proper training. I showed them a growth through path, okay, here's where you're going to be at, and we're going to judge you as you go through this path. And here's where you can expect to, by the end, you'll be a master certified technician.
Of that. So you're painting a picture of what the destination is going to look like, but you're also providing that pathway, that journey to that destination for your team members as well. By the way, Carm's going to love this episode because I keep hearing you're even correcting yourself. You're about to say technician, and you say, nope, it's specialist. So good job, man.
So as far as training, there's many of them out there. Vision right now is going to be the next one, and it's going to be my first time attending Vision.
Same.
So tools is, like I said, we're trying to grow this event, and I'm hoping. So if you're out there, registrations will be open very soon. I'm a little behind. There's been some behind the scenes stuff that we still need to work out before we can get that open, but we will get it out, and expect to have you there, and come meet Josh in person, hear what he has to say, and all the other speakers that we're going to have there in the different training. We got some of the best in the industry coming.
Yeah. And that's an understatement. I know a handful of folks who are going to be there who I haven't personally met yet, but I've been following and admiring for a while now. And I'm really pumped to meet them and hear them speak as well. I'm really excited for this conference. I'm glad you're going to be at Vision. It's going to be my first time there as well this year. So I'll see you here in a few weeks. And for those listening, as Bret just shared, registration for tools will be open here shortly. And when that registration link becomes available, I'm going to throw it on the YouTube link, as well as the all podcast platforms as you're listening to this episode.
And keep an eye on our social media. Tools Pennsylvania on Facebook. You're going to start seeing some advertising and social media posts about it. Just keep an eye on the social media and listening to like your podcasts and others that are going to be mentioning it as well. So we got a lot of people that are going to help, resources that are going to help us promote this.
Awesome. Very good. Well, Bret, we can't cut you loose without talking about some craft beer. So I got a couple questions for you. Number one, what are you drinking mostly right now? Like, what's kind of been your go-to as of late?
My go-to is anything in a glass.
Okay.
I'm more of a stout, porter, barrel aged, dark lager, whatever. That's normally my go-to. However, as I mentioned earlier, 3 years ago, we started a little journey with our own little podcast talking about craft beer called Central PA Pour. And my palate is open. I will drink pretty much anything. There's a few beers I don't particularly care for styles, but I still will drink a little bit here and there. Okay. It's just a fun thing. And I also got into brewing. So I do some home brewing as well. So that Justin Allen from Hunter.
Yeah.
Talked about doing a craft beer experience at Tools.
Okay.
Unfortunately, we can't do what we wanted to do because of their liquor license. However, I'm going to brew a beer, 5 gallons, and maybe 2. And if not, I'm going to go get a sixtel from a local brewer that I know. And we're going to have 2 beers on tap inside the hospitality suite all weekend at Tools.
Very cool. Okay. I mean, if again, another reason to attend the Tools conference, come on out and have some of Bret's homemade homebrew.
Yep. So what's your go-to?
Good question, man. I'm also a stout guy. I'm kind of finicky, like I'm not a big IPA guy, but if I have pizza, I got to have IPA with pizza. Like I've got to have a good crisp IPA with some pizza. Probably like a pale ale, something like a pale ale, maybe just a Kolsch as well, just like an easy drinker.
Crisp, crushable, stuff like that.
Yeah. That's kind of been my go-to here as of late. It really varies. I mean, I'm like you. I can drink pretty much any style.
Yeah, the beer that I'm probably going to wind up brewing, because Justin Allen likes IPAs as well, is an IPA. I have yet to brew an American IPA. I got one in the keg right now. It's my English IPA, which is not hoppy like you can get an American. It's more of a malt forward beer. So it will probably be an IPA that's on tap, and I'll probably either brew another one or get ready and get something from a local brewer that's opposite of that.
Okay. Well, one more craft beer question. Best, like, let's say top three, or one of your top three best beers you've ever had.
So I use Untapped, and I have a couple 5.0s. I don't rate even my own. I won't rate 5.0s. My wife and I were in Pittsburgh visiting my son, and there is a place out there. Oh crap! My mind just went poof.
Fatheads is in Pittsburgh. That's not that wouldn't.
There's plenty of them out there. There's plenty of beers in Pittsburgh.
Fatheads might be in Cleveland.
Trace Brewing.
Okay.
Walked in there and they had a barrel-aged rye stout. I tasted that and I was like, oh my, that was a 5.0. So we actually did a recording with him remotely. And I said, look, we'd like to sample your beers. So he sent me beers, and I opened up the box and guess what was in there? One of them barrel-aged ryes. I was like, oh yeah, Christmas came early.
Nice. Okay. Trace Brewing barrel-aged rye. I'm going to have to check that out.
Yeah, I think it's like a seasonal thing. I don't know if they do it all, but it was well worth it. That's one of my 5.0s.
Got it. There's a lot.
Is my 5.0s usually. That's where I go to the 5.0s. The Goose Island Bourbon County is what really kicked off our little thing.
Bret, you and I just became great friends. That is what started me on my craft beer journey years ago.
Yep. It's the first ones were the Boulevard Variety Barrel Series. I bought a variety pack of that, and then I bought a Bourbon County, and I was like, yep, this I used to drink Yuengling Lager and Boston, Sam Adams Boston. I still drink them once in a while when I don't want to spend a ton of money, but they taste like light beer to me. I like when I go to a place, I want the beer to be quality. I don't rate beers cheap, like, oh, this thing sucked. I might not rate it high, but I'll explain why I didn't like. This is not my style, but I appreciate what the brewer did, and I understand the style.
The original vanilla rye from Bourbon County, probably from if I'm thinking maybe 2017, 2018. Oh, I mean, that was my Trace experience. The kind of experience you had, that was mine. Original vanilla rye from Bourbon County. Yeah.
It was funny. We just recorded with another guest down here, and I had my vanilla bourbon stout on keg, and he said, well, I'll try that. And I go up and I go to get the keg, and it's spitched. I'm like, oh crap, the keg's empty. But no, hey, Josh, this has been great. I appreciate you having me on. Hopefully we'll see people at Tools or at Vision or any of the other training events that are in your area. Look them up. Get there. Go to the network. Get involved with your community. Get involved with your other fellow shop owners that are not your competition. There's plenty of the pie out there for everybody. We need to work together to bring this industry to the standards that are respected. What's they say? High tide raises all ships.
There you go. Love that.
So that's what we need to do, isn't it? We need to link arms and stand together.
You just said it, man. Yeah, let's link arms. Let's do this thing together. Let's go through this and grow through this. And we can't do it alone. And so I'm asking for your help. If you're listening, Bret and I are both asking for your help. Get out there, attend the conferences. You will not be disappointed. Bret, thank you, my friend. Thank you for being here. This will likely not be your last time on the Limitless Leadership podcast. So thanks for being here. And thank you for tuning in. Have a great day, everyone. Don't forget to smile today. Tell your loved ones how much they mean to you. I'm Josh Parnell, reminding you to keep leading well.